When the most dangerous species in the galaxy finally met us, they expected fear, but what they found was something far harder: to break the will of a species that refuses to fall in the endless dark where stars burn like distant memories. A quiet truth waited for its moment to rise, a truth whispered in half-forgotten legends of ancient travelers and vanished worlds, a truth that the galaxy itself tried to hide behind its spiraling arms. That somewhere in the cold reaches of space there existed a species marked as the most dangerous, the most relentless, the most unstoppable, and that one day they would awaken and set their gaze upon the worlds that dared to shine too brightly. We humans did not know our fate intertwined with theirs. We lived in our small blue cradle, believing war and conflict were our greatest trials, believing our storms and quakes and burning deserts were the harshest tests we would ever face. But destiny had already woven a far darker challenge waiting beyond the thin breath of our atmosphere. And it arrived on a night when the sky trembled with colors never seen before, as if reality itself was folding and bending to make room for the arrival of something ancient and devastating. It began with a roar that carried no sound, only vibration, a wave that rolled across oceans and mountains, shaking every heartbeat on Earth, a signal older than language, older than fear itself. And when the first ships tore through the veil of the night sky, their silhouettes were jagged like colossal beasts forged in the heart of dying sun's wings, of living metal spiraling tendrils sweeping through the void, hungry for new dominion. The galaxy knew them by many names, but the name that endured through shattered civilizations was the Carvex, a species shaped by violent worlds and born from gravity fields that crushed lesser beings into dust. Their bones were forged like stone, their minds sharpened by the endless heat of survival. They did not conquer out of greed, but out of instinct. Dominance was not their choice, it was their nature woven into every cell of their monstrous design. When they saw Earth, they saw prey, soft, fragile, insignificant, and easily broken. And for the first time since the dawn of their conquest, they spoke a single chilling vow that echoed across the dark paths of the galaxy, a vow that humanity would not survive the cycle, that humanity would not be remembered, that our light would be swallowed by the void without leaving even an echo. And yet, destiny is not written in strength alone. Destiny is written in the defiance of the weak, rising against the impossible. Destiny is written in the fire of a heart that chooses to stand even when standing is a promise of pain and loss and death. And humanity carried within it a fire the galaxy had long forgotten, a fire that the Carvex were about to encounter for the first time in their brutal history. The first strike fell upon the cities closest to the oceans, great pillars of violet energy searing through the clouds, boiling the sea into spirals of steam. Towers collapsed as if made of sand, and above the chaos, the shadows of the Carvex war beasts moved like thunder, carrying warriors with skin dark as volcanic glass and eyes burning with cold blue flame. They landed with the force of falling meteors, each step cracking the earth with monstrous power. Humans fled at first. How could they not? The very sight of these beings tore instinct deep into the spine of anyone who witnessed them. But retreat was not surrender. Retreat was the inhale before the scream, the silence before the storm, a moment where fear shaped itself into courage, because humanity has always stood strongest when cornered, when pushed to the edge, when facing the unfaceable. Across the burning cities, across deserts, shaking with impact, across mountains split by violet fire, something ancient awakened within us, not in our blood, but in our will, a force that had survived ice ages and wars and catastrophes, a force that carried our ancestors through nights filled with predators far stronger than us. And now, that same force rose once more against the greatest threat we had ever known. The Carvex expected us to kneel, but humans do not kneel, not when our homes burn, not when our families cry, not when darkness closes in around us, and we have only one choice left: to rise or to vanish. And so we rose. The first human counterstrike was not grand, it was not glorious, it was desperate soldiers and civilians fighting side by side, scrambling through shattered streets, wielding weapons dwarfed by the armor of the Carvex. Yet every blow carried meaning, every stand formed a line in the sand, every heartbeat carved a declaration into the unfolding chaos that humanity would not fall quietly into the void. The galaxy had always feared the Carvex because they were the embodiment of power, brute strength, merciless efficiency, but they had never faced a species that fought through loss instead of retreating from it, that turned grief into fuel, that transformed fear into unbreakable resolve. And when the first Carvex warrior fell to a human strike, something shifted, something subtle, something profound. The impossible had been wounded by the improbable. The Carvex roared, but humans roared louder, not with voice, but with action, with unity, with sacrifice, with the courage that shone in the eyes of those who refused to let their world be erased. The battle spread across continent skies, filled with burning debris, oceans churned with sinking ships, mountains cracked as orbital beams carved scars across Earth. But humanity held the line again and again and again. In the ruins of a fallen city, a group of survivors stood atop crumbling towers, forming a beacon made from broken metal and shattered glass, reflecting the firelight of the battlefield. And that single glimmer reached the broadcast stations still alive across the world, sending a message that pierced through smoke and despair: we are still here. Keep fighting, keep breathing, keep standing. The Carvex did not understand this resilience. To them, strength was measured in muscle and dominance and overwhelming force, but humanity measured strength differently, in connection and sacrifice, in the willingness to give everything so that another may live, in the belief that even a flicker of hope could outshine the darkest void. Across the galaxy, distant species listened, watching as humanity endured against the most feared conquerors known. In the spiral arms of the cosmos, whispers spread across hidden worlds that the humans were not prey, they were not weak, they were not an easy conquest, that perhaps the galaxy had misjudged them entirely. The Carvex brought their heaviest beast machines that walked like living mountains, weapons that carved rivers of molten stone, but humans adapted, evolved, improvised. Each new wave of destruction only sharpened our resolve, our strategies, our unity, and for the first time in their long and merciless reign, the Carvex hesitated. It was not fear, not yet, but curiosity, confusion, a question rising from deep within their ancient instinct. Why did these fragile beings refuse to fall? Why did they not flee? Why did they rise again and again with the fury of a storm, refusing to die? Humanity had no single answer for them, because our strength was not a simple thing. It was a million stories woven together: a mother shielding her child in the rubble, a doctor stitching wounds in the dim glow of burning streets, a soldier taking one more step despite the weight of despair, a stranger reaching out to lift another from the ashes. Every act, small or great, fed a river of defiance that grew into an ocean. And in that ocean, the Carvex found something they had never encountered: a force no weapon could shatter, a force no beast could crush, a force no empire could extinguish the human spirit. The final clash came on the plains once green, now blackened by scorched earth, the air trembling with heat, the sky pulsing with the glow of burning ships. The Carvex assembled their mightiest warriors, a legion that had conquered star systems with a single advance, and facing them stood humanity, not in perfect formation, not with flawless armor, not with superior strength, but with unbreakable will. Silence hung between the two forces, a silence thicker than fear, heavier than despair. Then humanity stepped forward, not as prey, but as equals, as challengers, as a species that had earned its place in the galaxy through sheer refusal to be destroyed. And in that moment, something ancient trembled across the stars. The Carvex charged with the fury of collapsing suns, but humanity did not step back. Humanity surged forward like a wave of living fire, every heartbeat carrying the weight of every soul that had fallen, every step echoing the strength of every survivor, every strike fueled by the belief that this world, this home, this fragile blue miracle deserved to live. The clash thundered across the plains, not a battle, but a storm of wills, a collision of destiny, the most dangerous species in the galaxy against the species that had never learned to surrender. And when the dust settled, when the fire dimmed, when the roar of war faded in a trembling silence, the galaxy realized a truth that changed everything. Humanity had not just survived, humanity had stood against the most feared conquerors and remained unbroken. And in the silent aftermath, even the Carvex bowed, their heads not in defeat, but in recognition, for they finally understood that danger was not born from strength alone. Danger was born from purpose, from unity, from the unstoppable force of a species that chooses to rise no matter how many times it is pushed to the ground. And so the galaxy learned a new name for humanity: not prey, not fragile, not insignificant, but the species that stands, the species that endures, the species that turns darkness into dawn. And when the next shadow rises across the stars, humanity will rise again, carrying the fire that no conqueror can extinguish. For we are human, and we are not done yet.